I truly didn't push her. I raised my hand and swore. I swear. I hurriedly approached Jalen and explained sincerely. Huh. You swear. I believe Roxy. Jalen and Spencer's voices sounded at the same time. Spencer shielded me and said to Jalen, "You're blinded by love." Jalen. Roxy isn't that kind of person. Jalen glanced at Spencer as his gaze fell on the latter's hand holding my waist protectively. He said coldly, "I know better than you what kind of person she is. Don't be mad." Miss Summer didn't mean to. Besides, I'm fine. Simone had just convicted me of the crime with those words. Jalen's expression darkened even more. If looks could kill, I would probably have been killed by him thousands of times. Roxanne, you're still as vicious as ever? Those words made my heart clench suddenly. My body seemed to be struck by lightning. The words I wanted to say were stuck in my throat, and I could not get them out. So I was that kind of person in his eyes. That was right. 6 years ago, didn't Simone set me up with a pitiful act and successfully drove a wedge between Jalen and me, making him choose her? She was employing the same tactic now. Most likely because she was afraid Jalen would soften and choose not to divorce because of the child in my womb. After saying that, he picked Simone up and walked out, not even caring to change his clothes. I ran after him and reached out to grab hold of him. Jalen, get out of my way. Don't touch me. He pushed me away, held Simone's head, and left the mansion without looking back. I fell to the ground from his hard shove. Spencer intended to catch me, but he was too late. Roxy, I'm fine. Help me go after Jalen. I had to make it clear to him today, even if we had divorced, I did not want to carry that kind of accusation again and let him misunderstand me. I tried to get up from the ground and chase after him, but my legs felt like jelly, and I felt a pain in my stomach at that moment. Spencer, my stomach hurts a little. I felt a crushing pain in my lower abdomen, like the one I had every time I had my period, but not quite the same. Don't frighten me, Roxy. The sight of me clutching my stomach and not being able to stand up made Spencer stare at me anxiously. Roxy, what's wrong with you? He asked. My stomach hurts. I felt a warm current coming from my legs. When I looked down, I found blood flowing down my thighs. Roxy! Spencer turned pale with fright. He hurriedly picked me up and headed outside. It hurts. My stomach hurts so much that I could barely speak. Don't worry, Roxy. I'll take you to the hospital. You'll be fine. Spencer carried me into the car and fastened my seat belt before getting in the car and driving to the hospital as fast as he could. 14 sometime later, we finally arrived at the hospital. As soon as he stopped the car, he went around to the passenger seat to carry me. A bad feeling rose within me. I did think about getting rid of the child after the divorce, but now, I suddenly felt scared again. This was a small living thing. I did not want him to leave, even if he had no father, even if his father did not love him. So what? He had me. I began looking forward to it a week ago when I realized that I might be pregnant. If I truly lost it just like that, I don't want to lose him. Spencer, please help me save this child. I'm begging you, I pleaded. Don't worry, Roxy, I won't let anything happen to you. He ran into the hospital with me in his arms and shouted, "Help! Doctor! There's a pregnant woman here. Come help me!" I heard the doctor hurriedly pushing the gurney over and lifting me onto it. Then, I watched as Spencer held my hand tightly and said comfortingly, "It's okay. It's going to be okay. This was my first child. A lovely little life. I hope he could be strong." 15 I did not know how long I had slept, but the first thing I saw when I woke up was my parents. What's going on? Roxanne? Why did you suddenly? My mother could not help crying when she saw me waking up. What about the baby? Mom, is the baby still here? I subconsciously reached out a hand to my abdomen, but my mother held it firmly. There, you can still have kids. You're still young. The baby was gone. My first child was gone. Why? I just had a slight fall. Why was it gone? I'll go to Jalen. I'm going to make him pay. My father was furious and wanted to leave and find Jalen, but I cried, "Dad, don't go. Don't go to him. It has nothing to do with him. I wasn't careful. Don't cry. Roxy, don't cry. You can still have kids." I closed my eyes and said, "No more. There won't be any more in the future." My mother turned around and yelled at my father after hearing what I had said. "It's all your fault. I told you back then that Jalen isn't interested in our Roxy, so don't let her marry him." But you didn't listen. Look at what it has become. Not only can their marriage not be saved, but their child. What's the point of talking about this now? Weren't you also happy that Roxy could marry into the Luxley family back then? He argued. That's not true. I told you that Jalen doesn't like Roxanne. I was already in a bad mood. But hearing my parents quarrel made me feel even worse. Dad! Mom! Stop quarreling. I don't blame him for this. Let alone both of you. I chose to get married back then. What happened today is also my choice. I did not want them to worry about me and blame themselves. So I wiped my tears and comforted them. We married back then for the sake of our respective family businesses in the first place. The baby was an accident. It's also good that the baby is gone, so we don't have to be entangled with one another. We're so sorry. Roxy. Back then, my father's company encountered a bottleneck, and the Luxley family proposed a marriage of convenience. Hence, Jalen was also pressured by his grandfather to marry me. Now, everything was over. How wonderful. So thorough. Considering my mother's poor health and my father's bad temper, I dared not break down in front of them, for fear of them causing a scene in front of the Luxley family. Only after I had asked them to leave and I was alone with Cecilia did I burst into tears. Cece. My baby is gone. Cecilia was my best friend and the person I trusted the most. No matter what happened every time, I felt at ease as long as I had her by my side. Roxy. She held my hand, pity written all over her face. The baby is gone. Everything is over, I said in a hoarse voice, rough like sandpaper. Roxy. It's all right. She leaned down and hugged me, whispering in my ear, it's not a bad thing to lose this child. We don't want the child of a scumbag. She continued soothingly. Don't want it anymore. Okay? I could not stop my tears from gushing out. It felt like someone was tugging my heart harshly, and my scalp was aching from the pain. The baby was truly gone. It was already more than 2 months old. How could it be gone just like that? I closed my eyes and said nothing, letting the tears flow down. Cecilia hurriedly wiped the tears on my face and comforted me in a low voice. Don't cry. Roxy, I don't know what to do when you cry. Don't cry. We didn't want him. It doesn't matter. We don't want someone that's not fated to be ours. She paused before continuing. That was what you said that day. We don't want him anymore. Yes, I did say that. After all these years, if he could turn back and spare me a glance, he would have done so long ago. Unfortunately, I would always be the most vicious person to him. Jalen, what are you doing here? Get lost. Roxy doesn't want to see you. I just want to go in and have a look. Get lost. If you don't leave, don't blame me for giving you another nosebleed. When I vaguely heard Spencer and Jalen's voices, I said to Cecilia, let him in. Cecilia glanced at me and nodded before getting up and heading outside. Roxy said to let him in. 16 Jalen walked in and said to me apologetically, Roxanne, I'm sorry? Tears began to roll down my face uncontrollably again as I gazed at his fair face. You must be relieved now. Jalen, the baby is gone. Isn't that what you want? As soon as I saw him, I thought of the scene in the mansion where he ruthlessly shoved me away and his determination to have me abort the baby. I hated myself. Why did I have hope for him? He was Jalen Luxley, a man who appeared gentle and noble but was heartless. Why did it have to come to this before I was willing to let him go? No, Roxanne, I truly didn't expect that. Forget it. I closed my eyes and stopped looking at him. It is what it is, whether you want it or not. It has already happened. I called you in just to tell you that I didn't push her, and I didn't do it back then either. After a short pause, I continued, but it doesn't matter anymore. Anyway, even if I keep explaining, you'll only believe her. I'm done. You can go. He seemed to want to say something more, but I turned my head and said directly, I'm tired. I want to rest for a while. I then added, by the way, we'll get the divorce certificate after I leave the hospital. I'll contact you then. Rest well. I'll come and visit you another day. Jalen made no response to what I said about the divorce and left after saying that.